When you're a foreigner living in a South American village with very little money, very few work opportunities, and seemingly no way out, there's just going to be one simple question deep in the back of your mind, a question that will not leave. It will burrow further and further and further to the point that it will absolutely haunt you. And that question is, what would you do for a couple grand? I'm John Renton with the Retro Review of The Wages of Fear from 1953, written and directed by Henry George Clozout and written by Jerome Geronimi. And Henry, he's actually pretty famous for some of the films he directed, like Diabolic and Manon, and you can check out their respective IMDb pages for the full list of their work. This was recently remade into a Netflix original that I will check out at some point, and William Friedkin, yes, the man that directed The Exorcist himself, the late William Friedkin, also did one under the name of Sorcerer that had Roy Scheider in it. Shockingly not hunting any sharks, even though a shark being involved in this plot would have been rather goddamn hilarious. So The Wages of Fear actually has, I don't want to say a trouble production so much, but a production that actually has quite a bit of history behind it. So let's talk about the cast. By the way, this is streaming on Max currently. It's from the Criterion Collection, and it's about 2.5 hours long. And let me tell you right now, this is a film that people should absolutely watch as far as pacing, character work, action, and everything. And the thing is, it goes pedal to the metal with tension. And that's the thing about this film. It actually has tension and pacing to it. Also, get ready to read subtitles. Quite a few subtitles. There's a bit of English in this, but you have French, Italian, you have other languages being spoken. But you have the characters of Mario and or Luigi. No! You have Mario Yves Montlin, who has been in quite a few things. And then you have Luigi Falco Lalali. And he is actually, pretty good as well. Yes, Mario and Luigi, decades before they teamed up to rescue Princess Peach / Toadstool from King Bowser and save the Mushroom Kingdom, and before they decided to take on Wart the Frog and a reskin of Doki Doki Panic, and also get the Tanuki suit and go to space and do all that stuff and become Paper Mario characters. A lot of Paper Mario references could be made here, but yes, decades before that, they were two friends that wanted to get out of this particular village. And why did they want to get out of this village? Well, the village is kind of not in the best shape. Granted, this is the 50s, so a lot of things weren't in that great shape. But there's no paved roads. There's a lot of, the citizens that basically are just barely scraping by. And you do have a love interest in this, Linda Vera Clozout. Yes, not to be confused with anybody other than a relation towards the director. By relation, I mean relation by marriage. She was in Diabolic, or Diabolique. I mean, really, if you want to just go with that, however you pronounce it. She, unfortunately, did pass away shortly after that was made, so she only made like 3 film appearances, all that her director, that her director / husband ended up doing. Rest in peace, Vera. Very beautiful woman, I do want to say. And you also have other characters like Mr. Joe and me, Charles Vanel. And then you have Bimba, Peter Van Eck. And then you have Bill O'Brien, William Tubbs. They call him Mr. Tubbs. So basically, 4 guys are being tasked with transporting some nitroglycerin across a very, very dangerous, treacherous, my God, a treacherous path. How did anybody drive on these goddamn roads? I'll never know. To transport some nitroglycerin to hopefully halt this particular explosion that happened at this refinery, because the stuff's going nuts and we're just purging the resources of all these various, various foreign countries and everything. Good thing the U.S. doesn't do that anymore. So yeah, this kind of got a bit of flack from the U.S. government because of its depiction of anti-U.S., going into foreign countries and taking the resources, tapping the resources, flat out stealing them, because that's just what we as angry Americans do, unfortunately. But a couple of the actors actually got conjunctivitis from one particular scene later. And yes, this is going to contain spoilers because the movie's over 70 fucking years old. Now, it is listed on IMDb as a 1955 release because it got a staggered release. 1953 is what I'm going with because that's when it was mostly done. And it was nice that the Criterion Collection was actually put out on Max because they have access to that stuff and have that collection, and you get to see it in all its glory. And there's a lot of moments where you might think, okay, just looking at it on the surface, and maybe looking at it in the beginning, you might be tempted to give up on it. But do not give up on it, because good character building, and good stuff once it finally starts to get going. It does take about an hour before we get the nitroglycerin being started for transport, but give it time, stick with it, and it ends up working. So, basically, the star, Yves, or however you say it, he didn't want to film in Spain because apparently he hated the guy that he called a dictator that led that place. And so they filmed it in the south of France. The village was built from scratch, the entire village or whatever. And I will say, very picturesque locations, despite the fact this thing was black and white. Yeah, production problems actually caused delays where it's like this. I think it like didn't end up getting finished until like 1952 because I think due to winter being a little more bitterly cold and a lot of rain and stuff like that. I will have to check out Sorcerer at some point. I will be checking out the Netflix original remake of this that just came out that apparently is not very good, so we'll see about that. So, that South American village is very desolate, destitute, however you want to say it. They're living their life, they live off the land, but man, the U.S. military is just ruling with an iron goddamn fist, and the natives are getting restless, as Ernie Ladd would say, leave with your heat. Yeah, Mario's the lead. Mr. Joe's the older guy that kind of is out for his own greed, but he's also kind of a coward. We get some, background as far as like these particular characters. The character of Bimba was in a Nazi salt mine, and Luigi basically, he's kind of the fun-loving guy that, he may have some health issues. There's also the talk of malaria because, foreign country. Modern medicine not exactly being accessible. Bill O'Brien, actor, was a huge man. And basically, everyone, just swoons over Linda. And I mean, you take a look at Vera, how could you fucking not? Because she was a gorgeous woman. But basically, Linda has her eye on Mario. And there's an explosion. There's at this refinery. And I think only like one U.S. citizen was hurt. Everybody else were, citizens of this or the surrounding villages. And O'Brien's upset. He's like, we got to get a great big convoy with just 4 driver guys and transport this nitro to keep ourselves alive. So the doctor checks out Luigi. He's not doing all that well. Mario! And there's from Bimba, he says, fear can catch on, or one character says fear can catch on like smallpox. I did want to call this Driving Miss Glycy because it's just funny, because why not? This is not a happy movie, I will say that much. This movie is not happy. It is bleak. There are some tense moments in this flick. It's damn good. It's very, very good. You really got to be prepared to sit down for 2.5 goddamn hours. Linda, still fawning over Mario. There's this one guy, Fernando, that wanted to go on the convoy but couldn't. Feels disappointed, feels like he dishonored his family, and he ends up hanging himself. And actually a pretty tense moment because Linda's praying and then suddenly looks up and, that's a human being's feet. And oh no, oh Dios mío. I'm sorry to any Spanish people that happen to be watching this. I'm really sorry. I'm kind of not, but I also am. So Mr. Joe's kind of looking out for himself, basically, but that kind of comes back to bite him in the ass. The 2-truck convoy, we basically get the hour in before this stuff starts loading. And I don't know why Mario felt the need to treat Linda badly, like, oh, get out of here. Like, you got a fucking gorgeous woman fawning over you. I mean, yeah, you're doing it for money, I get it, but say, I will be back. Say that. So Mario basically is, Mario and Mr. Joe take turns driving it. There's talk of the malaria. It seems like that's what's taking a hold of a couple of them because a couple of them ain't doing all that well. Sickness gets to Mr. Joe after he drinks some coffee. You have to think that maybe because he's an older man, I would have to imagine he's at least in his 50s, possibly 60s at this point. The road gets really bad around some section called the Carl. And Luigi and Bimba go on ahead because of Mr. Joe's health. And there's this part where like it seems like driving a stick shift is difficult. I can't drive a stick shift either. Just want to say that. And then they end up on this this turn on like a cliff road, and there's this wooden partition where they're trying to widen the road gradually with cement and that kind of stuff and build it up, but it's going to take time. And this thing is really rickety. Like, it's really rickety. Like, the wood is rotted and stuff like that, and they have to back up on this thing, after, like, they can't turn fully, so they have to go, back up, and then they have to go like this to, fully go, like a really, really bad curve on a mountain road. And there's a point where the wood piece goes. Luigi has to get a stick in under there, and you got to poke it with a stick. The mud starts spinning the tires. He's got to get another stick and push that. So everything's good. They go on. But then, this played on my fear of heights. This actually was probably the best goddamn sequence of the whole movie. Then, Mario and Mr. Joe get to it. And Mario's having some issues. Mr. Joe doesn't end up helping him back up fully. And he thinks he went right off the goddamn side of the whole thing. And now he's basically stuck. He has to try and drive his way out because there's just enough of a hill, or enough of a bump in a crest where it's like if you don't get enough going, and then he does, but he's kind of pissed at Joe because Joe basically was cowardly, and he's going to leave him, and he doesn't leave him. My anxiety was peaking during this because I hate heights. Now, granted, some parts of it aren't all that bad, but for a truck like that, carrying very deadly explosives, by the way, would be difficult. It's kind of like that movie Chill Factor. If Chill Factor wasn't dog shit, which I haven't watched in a while, let me know if I should watch that. And then Luigi and Bimba are driving. They end up running into a roadblock. End of the line in the form of an actual block in the road, aka a rock. And the funniest line in the thing was, "You lousy rock, how'd you even get here?" Yeah, WWE fans are asking that too. It's like, why did he get here? How did he get here? What has Dwayne done? So now the idea from Bimbo is like, okay, we need to blow this rock up, so let me siphon some nitro, and yeah, we might die, but at least we'll get rid of the rock. So they do that, and actually it's a pretty good scene where they have to back up their trucks, and wait a second, the rocks might come down and attack us. Yeah, we didn't think of landslides bringing us down. So then Luigi tries to stop the explosion. Well, that doesn't work. It does blow up the rock, and seemingly he's dead. No, he's not dead. Not yet. Not yet, at least. He's not dead yet. They're on ahead, and basically they're just driving along. And suddenly there's a big explosion. Their truck explodes. Boom. Just boom. It goes off somewhere. Maybe a spark caught something. Who knows? They might have run off the goddamn road. And yeah. He's, let's just say Joe isn't doing all that well. Neither is Mario. And yeah, they end up having this explosion basically caused like massive damage. There's this oil pipeline that's busted, and it's filling up like a lake in a little dip that's going to be really difficult to get out. And actually what ends up happening is Joe tells him don't stop whatever happens. Well, Joe is trying to, get some branches out of the way, trying to get away for him to go, like, for Mario to go through this thing. And he ends up rolling over Joe's legs because, one, Joe told him not to stop. Two, Joe also was pretty much just being a crude individual. Har, har. So, yeah, this is where they got conjunctivitis, by the way, because apparently they were exposed to oil and gas fumes. And, yeah, this didn't go all that well. Joe is pretty much dead by this point. Like, he's, Mario's trying to keep him alive, trying to do all this stuff, and everything's going not all that smoothly. They managed to get to the base. They managed to get the nitro. Mario's seen as a hero. News travels back to everybody that Mario's going to be coming home and everything's going good. And then he's all happy. He's swerving along the road like an idiot, and then he crashes and then he dies. Oh, bleak and depressing and ridiculous. The Wages of Fear, proof that money can't conquer all, especially when you're a bad driver. Yeah, but you know what? Honestly, pretty damn good overall. I don't think I'll watch this again just because it is a really long movie. But I'll get to the other versions at some point. Probably the Netflix version, and then maybe watch the Roy Scheider version sometime this summer. But that being said, have you seen The Wages of Fear? Have you ever heard of The Wages of Fear before this review? Let me know in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Reckland. I'll see you soon.